Folks, welcome to an all-new So Bad It's Good. This is your pal Ryan, and this is your Thursday episode. We're doing a Real Housewives of Beverly Hills reunion part one of 3 recap. Yay! Are you hunkered down? Are you ready for 3 parts of this Beverly Hills reunion? No, I have to say right off the bat, I enjoyed this reunion. I enjoy them in a setting where they're asked very specific questions, and it kind of gets to the heart of the matter of what we've been talking about all season about sharing the reality of their lives. So there was listen, there were dark moments, but I enjoyed the conversation overall. We'll go through it bit by bit as we always do. But I mean, I enjoyed this more than some of just the regular episodes this season. I like that it's concentrated and that there's a goal to get to some form of the truth. And it's great to have everybody there in a setting and have somebody like Andy, asking very pointed questions. So I enjoyed this because I feel like we did not get that this season. There are so many question marks on so many relationships and storylines that I think this is needed. So I did enjoy it. I just watched it again another time. Thank you to Juliana Carrozza, as always, for taking amazing notes. Now, Peacock did an unedited, their whole, they added 5 more minutes of material, and you get to hear them curse, and that's always exciting. That's a lot of bang for your buck. When you hear Dorit do a hard F word, that's money in the bank, folks. Fuck! I love it. I love it, love it, love it. How are you guys doing? Are you hanging in there? What did you think of the reunion? I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to think of reunions in the past that have been all lovey-dovey. This is not that. But most reunions aren't lovey-dovey to begin with. I don't know. Maybe it's just, I don't know. I'm just so used to, by the way, I'm doing this much earlier than I would normally do it. I'm doing it 3 p.m. on a Thursday. And I usually record much later at night, but I'm trying to get this done so I can go exercise and then watch Love on the Spectrum and Survivor tonight, which are shows that are kind of polar opposite from shows like Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. You are in, I don't know if I would use the word deep trauma, but you are in a very negative headspace when you watch Housewives shows. And I posted a TikTok earlier and somebody left a comment that cracked me up saying, we need to set term limits for Housewives. And I thought that was so brilliant. I was like, yes, we need term limits. Kyle should not be doing 14 seasons on any show. I mean, my God, just you hear that and you're like, that is a massive amount of television. And sometimes it's okay to take a break. And especially if you are trying to figure out your life, or there are aspects of your life that you don't want to share, which I completely understand. But the best place for you isn't then a show that you get paid to talk about your real life. And that's what I think the overall kind of thesis of this hour plus that we'll spend together is. We need to change the title of the show just to The Housewives of Beverly Hills. If we're not going to actually share the reality, you can't pick and choose which reality you want to share. You can't say, well, I share about my kids, but I don't share anything about my love life. And it feels like Kyle did like a full court press on all of the cast members to say, don't talk about Morgan, okay? She doesn't want it. And that's interesting too, because it kind of touches on fame in general of Morgan wants fame for her music. That's her talent, but she didn't want fame for this, but she did sign up to do it last season. So I don't know if that was just trying to impress Kyle or everything was hot and heavy and exciting, like the first part of a relationship or a friendship. And so she did it and then saw that I always just get so shocked when people are still shocked about the reaction they get once they're on these shows. This is Thunderdome, baby. This is Welcome to the Jungle. Are you kidding me? And at this point, if you don't know that, you are not doing your due diligence. Boz even admits in this reunion that she did watch the show. She studied the show. I mean, she didn't say that specifically, but she said she watched it before she came on. Boz knew what she was getting herself into. And even Boz says, it's still a lot to hear people's opinions about the dreams that I want in my life. And nobody is doubting that. Oh my God, I think that is the truest statement ever. None of this is something that I would gladly sign up for. But when you accept money for it, there is an exchange for goods. And if we're not getting the goods, then I feel like in some ways we have to reshift. We have to refigure out this puzzle where we shouldn't get more information from paparazzi photos, from Instagram photos. We shouldn't be getting more information from them than we get through the actual show, if that makes sense. Now, Garcelle, really, you can sense that Garcelle would be leaving the show by the end of this reunion. Even in the first part, she's like, fuck. And listen, I think it's the right move for Garcelle and the right move for the show in some ways. But I do want to say I appreciate Garcelle for being one of the only people to call out something that we've all been feeling for the most part throughout the season. Of like, why are we not talking about the reality of everybody's lives? And yeah, you could throw that back on Garcelle, but yeah, if she's saying I went on 2 dates with some guy, I don't know if that's necessarily like, and by the way, I don't really care to know about Garcelle's kids. Like, yeah, your son doesn't want to be on the show. Cool. Good for, like, yeah, we saw what Erika did a couple seasons ago to your son, so I completely understand that. But I didn't sign up to watch any of their kids, but I signed up to watch them. And to me, them, you also want to see their love lives. And that's why when Erika Jayne is like, I wish you'd be more interesting. Shut the F up. Are you kidding me? Listen, do we want to? Oh, I can't wait for the whole segment we're going to do on your wallpaper next episode. Like, what legitimately storylines have you brought? Erika's in that nice little sweet spot where housewives, they have the hot potato for a while, and then they're in that sweet spot where I think Erika's been the last 2 seasons, where she just gets to comment and shit on other people and pick and choose who she wants to have alliances with. So this is kind of like Survivor in some ways. But I think Erika's in that real easy peasy spot because there's nothing really that we could ask about what we've seen on screen that would warrant a full segment of any kind of, it's like, cool. Like, cool, you look good. By the way, I think Erika looks beautiful at this reunion. All of the women look beautiful. So I will always give flowers to where, like if that's what we're going by, she looks amazing, right? Looks amazing. But it's rich when you tell somebody else that they're not interesting when your storyline was a glow up on your 1-bedroom pool house. That is fascinating to me because it then makes me think that you are actually not plugged in at all and that you have no concept of what's going on around you, because I just think that's a rich criticism coming from Erika this season. But listen, it made for a nice little moment, and that's the thing. These shows in some way are supposed to make you feel something, and I felt anger. And I got to tell you, I like to feel angry sometimes. That's what I come to this show. That's also why I said never fire Lisa Rinna. Like, even though I thought she became a caricature of herself, if you recall, I never said don't fire her. Keep her as long as you want to keep her. I mean, I would prefer for Kyle to take a step back. I think that would be a really scary move for the show and Kyle, but I would prefer it just because I want the overall health of the show. Just take a year off, come back, see what life has taught you in that year of not having to worry about, like, is this storyline going to make it to air, or having to talk to your castmates about not talking about something that is obviously going on in your personal life. Take that time for yourself. We know she's financially okay, so she doesn't need the money. So I personally think that's the way to go. I mean, let's figure these things out. I mean, this show is not completely broken, but it's nearing that way. But at the same time, it gets high ratings. There are still a couple moments every week that I really enjoy. I'm nowhere, like, I read people all the time of like, I'm not watching this show, I stopped watching this show. I mean, we talked to Yana Firestone last week, and she said she doesn't watch this season. And I thought that was really interesting. Like, I'll go down with any sinking ship, period. But I don't think we are at sinking ship territory, but a lot of stuff needs to be worked on. And there are so many relationships where this comes across as a bunch of business associates that come together to work at like a corporate retreat at a law firm than a bunch of friendships. Like, I feel like we shouldn't even be saying the word friendships or sisterhood on this show. It's like we're coworkers, like this is the sisterhood of the traveling coworkers, and nothing more. Because everybody is pretty cemented in how they feel about each other. Now, with Garcelle gone, that's going to make Sutton have to kiss Kyle's ass even further if Kyle stays. And really, I mean, Sutton is the one that is in a sinking ship at this point. And Sutton is not the best communicator in terms of expressing herself, so she gets flustered really quick and easy. And Erika and even Dorit, you can smell blood in the water. I mean, they pounce on that shit. I'm a little like that too. Like, I'm easy to tease or get at in some ways, and I'm not, I'll get flustered really quickly. But also, I don't think I would do the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. So we're potentially okay. I don't think I'm going to be announcing my casting on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills at any point. Anyways, I hope you're good. I hope you are good. I also wanted to make an announcement. This happened like about a month ago, and I've talked about this on the Patreon. What up, baddies? I've talked about this on the Patreon a couple of times. Is that I did leave Betches that distributed the show. I left about like a month ago, and this has been in the works for a while. I wish I could say there was some big drama. I don't wish I was. I mean, I'm happy. There was no big drama in leaving. In fact, I will always be a Betch. I've continued to do things with Betches. They sent me to the Oscars after this happened. I was on Sammy's show talking about White Lotus. I mean, Sammy, I consider a personal friend, and I truly loved everybody I met there. Just in terms of this show and where I wanted to go, it was easier. I'm now with S71, which distributes Heather McDonald's podcast, Trixie Mattel, Bill Maher. There's tons of people with S71, and they're a top 10 distributor. But they also have a studio space in LA that I get to use. And that's why you'll see, or you have seen, a bunch of more in-person interviews, which is really kind of the next phase of where I want to go, because I love interviewing people and having that moment, and to be able to like step outside of a Zoom screen and do that in person is just a muscle that I've been wanting to grow more and more. But like I said, I will always be a Betch. I will continue to work with them in other capacities. I know, and this really wasn't anything. It just wasn't anything dramatic. And also, I didn't make an announcement a month ago because I didn't want this show to be about anything like that. Nobody should worry about where I'm going. I just want you to be here to enjoy yourself, or to get turned on to a new show, or we like rant and rave about a reality show that we love, or we get so excited about the traders. That's what I want you to focus on. But I did know that I would make an announcement at some point. Also, that the YouTube will start getting a little bit of a makeover, and will probably start mirroring the episodes that you hear. Actually, it'll mirror what you see on YouTube as well. Because right now, the YouTube will put a full interview up or a full recap, but then there are pieces of the show that don't make it up onto the YouTube at all. And that's why I always say, listen to the show if you can, because the YouTube isn't the full thing. Well, over the next couple months, that will be changing. And this is a good plug for our YouTube. Go subscribe over there. You can watch this. And I mean, my dream has always been to have my own talk show or my own show. And I've been able to live that dream in some capacity in the last 5 years. And I'm hoping to continue to grow. But even if we don't grow from here, even though we continue to grow, but even if we don't, man, I'm so blessed. I'm so happy. And I need these moments to say that out loud, just to remind myself, because I am such a negative Nelly in my head. And then I get on this and I realize, God, you really are lucky. And that's why I think I podcast so much, because it keeps me in a positive headspace when I'm doing this. So continue to subscribe, continue to rate and review at 5 stars, continue to like our Instagram posts, do all of the things. Anything that is free, those are all free things that you can do to help us. And I really appreciate it. Recommend this to your friends. If there's a good interview that you hear, say, oh, you might want to hear this. Or even today, Nikki Boyer, she has that new show coming out, Dying for Sex, on FX with Michelle Williams. We had such a great emotional interview about the podcast that she created with her friend who ended up passing from cancer. And it was such a beautiful interview. And I just hope you guys get to hear that, and you try out episodes that you might not even think that you like. That was always the biggest compliment I could give somebody like Howard Stern is, sometimes he would have an interview guest that I'd be like, I do not want to hear Peter Frampton. And then I would listen to it, and he found a way to be like, oh, this is why I should love Peter Frampton. Or like, everybody's life is interesting in some way. There's something fascinating about all of us. And that's what I'm trying to strengthen my skills as we go through the years. So just wanted to put that out there, and I'm happy to be here with you guys. Now let's fucking go with Real House. Let's tear these women a new asshole. I wanted to talk about one other thing, Real Housewives of Beverly Hills related, was that Teddi Mellencamp, obviously former Real Housewives of Beverly Hills housewife and co-host of the Twats Pod, the 2 T's in a pod. So as we know, she is going through this devastating battle with cancer. I mean, anybody going through cancer is going through a devastating battle. And I think this has moved a lot of us. Whether you liked Teddi on the Housewives or you didn't is really inconsequential at this moment. And what I love about this fan base is that we can all rally around somebody and hope the best for them and want the best for them without having any bearing on how you feel about them on a TV show. But she did an exclusive interview with Us Weekly and revealed a lot about her journey. And she's really, I mean, going through it. I mean, she revealed that they have found 4 more brain tumors. And she's on immunotherapy right now, and she's not going to know until, I believe, May or June, if this is working and what the outlook is going to be at that point. Now, this hits home for, I think, all of us, me especially, just reading this, just because my mom had gone through similar things and with the immunotherapy as well. And I remember that one specific moment of, doing the immunotherapy, and that was one of the last kind of Hail Marys, right? And, and it obviously didn't work. And those things are just, I mean, and I think as much as Teddi can, she's going through this with grace. And, I'm sure she has so many fearful moments, but she is putting on such a brave front. And, I love her doing a cover story on Us Weekly. I love her doing photo shoots. Like, dude, inspire as many people as you can. She also said some things that I thought were interesting, is that Kyle Richards, actually, who is her real friend, we do know this, is the one that kind of pulled some strings to get her into Cedars-Sinai. And that's a whole nother conversation, is that you do realize I've known a few or been around a few really rich people in my life, and no surprise, they have access to better medical care than we do. And I got to experience that once, and it really is jaw-dropping. And if I have any rich friends out there, or if you have any rich friends out there, use them, folks. We should all be getting the same health care, but she was able to get into Cedars-Sinai through Kyle. But she seems like she hasn't lost her sense of humor. She talks about, everybody reaching out to her. The only person that hasn't reached out to her, I think she says, is Garcelle, which is like, I don't know, man. At this point, who knows? Maybe she'll do that at some point. And would you really want Garcelle to reach out to you? But I think the sheer amount of positivity that we can throw at Teddi, the better. But yeah, the 4 tumors, she had started radiation and immunotherapy, and that obviously takes a huge toll on your body. She's going to know where they stand on June 1st, if she needs to do another round, if there's any other surgery, and if it's the end. I mean, she says that point blank. She's going to know on June 1st what the next course of action is. And the other thing is, it could be the end. And just to say that sentence, she even says it's a hard pill to swallow. I mean, that's the thing. And especially for, even if, like I said, you don't like Teddi, you do like Teddi, you can't argue. And I think, that she is a fighter. I mean, a fighter in a way that I don't think I would be able to ever fight. I think I would pretty much give up immediately, but she's a fighter. And that's the frustrating thing. It was a lot like my mom. My mom was a hell of a fighter. And when you come to that end, it is unfortunately sometimes you can't do anything else. And the thing was, this started off as skin cancer, right? The melanoma. And that shit spreads everywhere. So all of these things are popping up on the lungs and the brain. And I think this is so important for everybody, if you can, to get checked as often as possible, as often as your insurance lets you. But she even says, hey, a little PSA, get life insurance early and do your will. Doing all of those things once you've already been diagnosed with cancer isn't a dream. That's really hard. Hopefully you'll never get sick, but do it before you get sick. So she's putting these little tips out there. In fact, there was a British comedian, I'm forgetting her name, that actually got checked and found cancer because she had listened to, I think, a podcast with Teddi Mellencamp. I mean, that's amazing, being able to help people out there. And always, that's what we want to talk about, everything. These are hard things to talk about, but they shouldn't not be talked about. We should be talking about these things. This stuff will affect all of us in our lifetime. And the more that we can talk about it, and we can talk about it with a smile on our face, or, this is so scary, right? This is scary for all of us. But I just think it's amazing that she's kind of informing the public about her journey. They said, has your perspective on how you look changed? She says, it depends. There are some days where I think you're allowed to say, I don't feel confident right now. I feel very uncomfortable and I want to wear a wig. And there are some days that I'm like, it is what it is. Some days I'm really sad and really scared. And some days I'm like, I got this. I'm not worried. They say facing your mortality must be so hard. And she said, everybody wants me to be super positive all the time. One of my coping mechanisms is being sarcastic. I'd rather joke about it and have the best possible outcome than be completely in denial and have my heart broken, which I think, everybody goes through life a certain way. So check out this Us Weekly article. And it definitely brings up a lot of feelings for me. And I think that's important. I think that, like I said, the more that we can actually talk about this stuff and normalize this, and at the same time, wish for a full recovery for Teddi Mellencamp. My wish, my dream, you guys, is that if Kyle's going to stay, that Teddi Mellencamp actually does come on as a friend of, or fuck it, a full-blown housewife, and we get to see her going through this journey. I mean, think about how many people that would help, and I never thought I would call for the return of Teddi Mellencamp. But what I would call for is a return to, if we're going to talk and say big words like friendship, let's actually see real friendships. And we know that Kyle and Teddi are actual friends. And this would be so helpful to so many people. It might not be the most fun storylines, right? But this show, and that was my whole point at the start of this show, is that it should be warts and all. It shouldn't be just this unobtainable wealth that we get to see and they get to like bandy about and we get to be like, oh, this is so aspirational. Because I think the reality is we are a sophisticated audience at this point and we don't really buy into those narratives as much as we once did. Okay? So thank you for letting me talk about that. I just wanted to give Teddi a shout out and let's put some positive energy her way. This is Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Season 14, Episode 18, Reunion Part 1. This is the description the cable company gives us. The ladies reunite to work through hurt feelings and allegations. I wish the person describing these on cable would be like, yeah, that's not going to happen. Dorit speaks on her separation and feeling unsupported by Kyle. Bose responds to those questioning her relationship with Keeley, and Garcelle has to answer for hurtful insinuations. Woo, woo! At this point, we always start off the same way, right? We know this by rote, is that we see the arrivals of the ladies. So 6:10 a.m., we have a production guy, stepping up to Kyle's car going, how are you doing, Miss Richards? Ready to get caught up on the episode? It's so fun for me to watch. There's too many snakes in the grass. They make all of the cast watch all the episodes. Can you believe that? They make them do their research, and we find out through the course of it, Kyle is not caught up on all the episodes. We see Garcelle arrive. We see Erika arrive. By the way, we see the Erika shot after Kyle says so many snakes in the grass. Yeah, I'll put it out there. I think Erika's a snake. The production rep says, welcome to your first reunion, Bose. And Bose brings like a huge jug of water. And she says she's got a lot of shit to say. Okay. The production rep sees Dorit. How are you feeling, Dorit? Well, I'm just feeling anxious to get into glam. Feeling anxious to get into glam. I feel like that's the part that Dorit loves the most and probably is the most concerned with. Sutton is in Garcelle's room and she's like, I brought you a reunion present, Garcelle. So Sutton's already kissing Garcelle's ass and just in case something goes south. And it does with them. And by the way, in the unedited version, the thing that Sutton brought Garcelle is a huge vibrator. Heyo! A very special episode of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. The stylist asks Kyle, whose crystals are outside? And Kyle's like, mine. They're charging in the sun. You know you've been on a show for too long when you're charging crystals outside of a reunion. I've always told people, pre-charge your crystals before you get into a reunion. I love that Kyle has a crystal farm with her. Remember last reunion, she had the crystals on the couch with her hiding? Andy arrives and makes his rounds to all the ladies and goes into Kyle first like, hey, we're doing this again. And Kyle's like, 14 times. Bose to Dorit says, girl, oh my God, I'm excited. I'm also nervous. And Dorit's like, that's normal. And Andy, talking to Kyle still, says, what do you make of the viewers thinking there's a double standard in terms of what you expect others to share versus what you share? And Kyle's like, what have we seen from Garcelle's life? And Sutton's, I mean, like her sustainability line? Cool. Then back to Garcelle talking to Sutton, going, have you spoken to anybody? TMZ caught me coming out of the airport and they were like, so Kyle says you guys are good. And she kind of makes a frown at Sutton, and Sutton kind of frowns back. And Garcelle's like, are we? Erika then, in an unaired scene, comes into Kyle, and Erika's like, I woke up every hour of the hour last night. And Kyle lets us know that she's been watching the episodes backwards. So I think she like started at the end first and then watching, and she hasn't even seen the Viper Room scene from the beginning, the Viper Room episode from the beginning of the season. And Erika's like, I think you should watch that before you go in today. It's not that bad. You were just upset. And Kyle's like, I know. Everybody was talking about the vein on my forehead. I was one of those people. Remember, what did we name Kyle's vein? We had a name for it. Was it like Randy? I'm Randy, Kyle's vein. When Kyle gets upset, Randy comes out to play. Yeah, I mean, I love that she's very aware. She doesn't watch the episodes, but she's very aware of the chitter chatter around the episodes. Erika goes, that's your thing, your vein. And Erika also says, do you want me to faint on the couch and I can go to the hospital with you? Erika says, you should faint on the couch and I'll go to the hospital with you. And that's a callback from last season when Sutton did, like, she fainted and Garcelle had to take her out before the end of the reunion. Now, Andy pops in on Dorit and, like, how are you feeling today? And Dorit's like, well, I don't want to leave here tonight thinking, oh, shoot, I wish I had said that. And Andy's like, yeah, leave nothing on the table. Is that the expression? And Dorit's like, I think leaving it on the stage. And Andy's like, yeah, leave it all on the stage. Yes, Andy, I love it. And Andy's like, all right, no yawns, which is a callback to Andy yawning every time Dorit speaks at these reunions. So we're all getting onto the set. Andy is commenting on all the ladies. And I will say, they all really do look beautiful. Garcelle in particular, that outfit is amazing. I think Erika was my second favorite. I don't know, they all look beautiful. I mean, I'm not the best judge of like style, obviously, but I thought they all looked beautiful. Anyways, Kyle gets on stage and Garcelle's like, you look beautiful, Kyle. And Garcelle whispers to Sutton, Kyle's not looking at me at all. She's pissed. And I'm like, yeah, this is the coordinated attack. This is what I'm saying, is that we had that coordinated attack last week that Jennifer Tilly was talking about. Sutton felt that Dorit and Erika were doing towards Sutton. But I think the real coordinated attack is just life, is that obviously going into this, you know that Kyle's mad at Garcelle. Kyle's probably talked mad shit about Garcelle in text messages to Dorit and text messages to Erika. I truly believe this with all of my heart, but also that's just normal life. I mean, think about it. Open up your phone and like go to your group text and say how many times you've talked mad shit about somebody. And that's why I always think, we should do term limits on Housewives, and we should also make people drop their phones at the beginning of the reunion. So some kind of PA will go through it and go, oh, I found something, and run it out to Andy. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills Season 14 reunion. Erika looks shocked by this. I'm like, Erika, you don't even know what season of the show we're in? I'm Andy Cohen. Tonight, I want to welcome you ladies back to the tropical paradise of St. Lucia. The set is like decorated to look like St. Lucia. And Andy's like, Kyle, are those your crystals? These are my crystals, Andrew. And these will do what today? Bring me strength and clarity. Maybe help calm me down a little bit so I don't end up in the hospital like Sutton did last year. Hey-o, high five. I love Kyle throwing Sutton under the bus immediately. And he's like, hi, Erika. Couldn't believe our ears when we heard your song Drip in the movie Anora. Congratulations. By the way, that is a great song to striptease to. I've done it many times to that song. And Erika's like, thank you. I'm a feature on that song, and the movie won the Palme d'Or, and it's up for Best Movie at the Oscars. That's wild, right? I did that. Hey, Garcelle, congratulations on Baby Valley. Is it true that LVP is in the running for godmother? And Garcelle's like, she wants to be. Well, is Oliver still working for Lisa? Yeah, talking about Oliver, her son, working for Lisa at Vanderpump Vegas. And he's like, hey, Sutton, great to see you. Kathy's coming out later. I need to find the leftover cards from last year's reunion that we didn't get to. And Sutton's like, I'll see. What if Sutton dies this year? Well, I'm going to one up this year. I'm going to drop dead. And he's like, hi, Boz. Great first season. How are you feeling coming into your first reunion? And Boz says, thank you. I feel great. I mean, this is exciting. I've had a great time. And Kyle's like, said none of us ever. And Dorit's like, ever? They're all, never, ever. They all laugh. Bo's like, Well, maybe it's because I know I'm right about everything. I will say, Bose was a great first season housewife. It'll be really interesting to see the second season. That's usually when this kind of minute level of fame gets to your head, and I hope Bose doesn't fall into that same trap that we've seen other housewives over the years do. I think Heather Gay fell into that. Will be interesting to see Bronwyn from Salt Lake City, which, by the way, we'll talk, I think, on Monday about Bronwyn, about some rumors that we've heard about her recently on the Pop Culture Roundup, because there's some shit that is coming out suspiciously right around the time that they are filming right now. So, of course, things are going to come out from these people's past. But Bose, like it's easy to, I think for Bose, she's probably winning easily this season because she's just able to be herself and be normal and go, well, that looks weird right there. Like, sure, you can complain like, well, how is she being in an alliance with Dorit? I don't think it's being in an alliance. I think it's just like the feeling and vibe she got, and she went with that. And for the most part, I didn't really I thought it was really tacky last week on Watch What Happens Live in talking about Garcelle with Erika, but I put that more on Erika than I did with Bose. And I think Bose is a powerhouse, so it's going to be really interesting. But it'll be also interesting to see how this show changes her, because most people, this show will change in some way. Andy's like, hey, Dorit, great to see you. Very cool seeing you in the pages of British Vogue. Is that everything you thought it would be? And Dorit's like, could ever wish for a surreal moment. Beep, boop, bobby, boop, boop, boop. Andy says, and I hate when he does this question at the beginning of reunions now, does anybody have any intentions they want to set for the day? And Kyle's like, my intention is just to leave here today feeling better than when I arrived. And Garcelle's like, well, I hope we can talk through things, work them out, and at the end of the day, we actually get a cast photo of the reunion. Spoiler alert, folks, we do not get a group photo of everybody because Garcelle leaves. We found that out last week, so we do not get that group cast photo that Garcelle wanted in the beginning of this reunion. So Garcelle was like, yeah, the last 2 years, we didn't get one. And Sutton's like, I apologize already. Enough. And he goes, okay, well, as Dorit faced mounting pressure from her shocking separation, her entire life changed in an instant. The PK-loving, Chanel-toting Dorit of the past has left the building, and a cigarette-smoking, table-lunging force to be reckoned with has taken her place. Let's see how that went. And we do a clip package. We have PK on the microphone in 2016, talking to his lovely wife in front of a group of people. As I stand here tonight welcoming our friends and family, it's an opportunity for me to confess publicly, it's you, baby, and you alone. I love you, baby. And then we have that scene of Dorit talking to Erika at the beginning of the season. PK and I have agreed to separate. And then we see the Instagram text put out on the screen of their separation. And I'll do this in PK's voice, which is dead on for his voice. We as a couple have been subject to a lot of speculation about our marriage. We have had our struggles over the last few years and continue to work through them as two people who love each other and share two amazing, whatever he just said, one amazing child and another one. To safeguard our deep friendship and maintain a harmonious environment for our children, we have made the mutual and difficult decision to take some time apart and reevaluate our friendship while we prioritize our children and boy George. We appreciate your love and support while we continue to do the work necessary throughout this journey. With love, Dorit and PK. And then we had that clip of Dorit talking to Kathy going, he's a full-blown alcoholic, Kathy. He's a fat, bloated piece of shit alcoholic. And then the scene with Mauricio and PK. He's like, what happened, bro? I'll tell you what happened. I got sober. Then a scene from Dorit to Kyle going, one of my biggest issues, if not the biggest, is the way PK would speak to me. I used to call him the monster. Kyle in a talking head saying, I always saw Dorit as wearing the pants in that relationship. Is Dorit taking advantage of this moment that she can paint a picture of who PK is and he's not here to defend themselves? You can tell. I mean, like, listen, there does seem to be a very big disagreement with Kyle about PK. Kyle has made, I think more than just hints, is that she doesn't necessarily believe the storyline that Dorit is selling. For me, I kind of believe it. I think PK has left Dorit high and dry. But Kyle, you can tell, and this is when I'm talking about the Chamber of Secrets. Like, let us know. You know specifics. It's not just memes and texts. Memes and texts, texts and memes. No, you know where the bodies are buried, Kyle. Let's get that shit out. But this show cannot be that real. We have bumpers on like at a bowling alley, you know? Like we have these bumpers on that we just bash up against instead of actually going through to find out what the real shit is. We have that scene where we're over at Kathy's, where Kathy's like, I think PJ is a very good father. Am I correct? And Dorit's like, wrong. Well, what is he doing? I'm the girl that wants to know. He left me a horrible note. And Erika's like, what's in it? What did it say? Just finances, and I'm going to stop paying this, and you're going to be liable for this. And Kathy's like, where are we going with this?
I think that's a divorce. Get a fucking lawyer. You got to get out.
It would be funny if Erika recommended Tom as a...
I do know one gentleman. He is not properly licensed in the state of California.
Dorit says, I know this. If I have to go to war, I will go to war. By the way, go to war then. There is something about it that I thought Dorit really started the season strong, like really like unhinged in the best possible way. And I feel like it really petered off that when she kind of went off Kyle and then hopped on Sutton. I felt like that was the easy storyline in a lot of ways. And I felt like what we saw in the beginning, we didn't really kind of see it through, if that makes sense. Andy says, okay, well, let's first talk about the cigarette that launched 1,000 memes. I did a meme. I did that. And Andy's like, Dorit, the viewers loved seeing you smoking in the car. When they were like, Bravo did a poll. It turns out you've had a lot of kids, 18 and younger, start smoking because of that scene. And Dorit's like, that's wild, really wild. I would have never guessed that one. Have you been a smoker for a while? And Dorit's like, oh, so we're going to go there, huh? And it's like, sure, why not? Well, I have been a social smoker, and I think that especially in the last few years with what's been going on, I became a stress smoker. From what I hear, she's like a stress smoker 24/7. I've always knew that Dorit was a smoker. I think it's more than a social smoker, but whatever, we'll let you have it. But I love that Andy's calling that shit out. Kyle goes, can I ask a question? You never thought that would be seen, Dorit? Because when we have the car cams, we know no one's ever going to use this. And Erika's like, I assume everything's going to be seen. Yeah, like your wallpaper. Ooh. Dorit goes, exactly, Kyle. I assume everything's going to be seen. I was just in a place where I didn't give a fuck. Stay in that place, Dorit. Andy says, Kyle, did BK send you a meme about it? Woo! Andy on fire. Kyle shakes her head, no. And Garcelle goes, damn. Garcelle, we need a supercut of all the times Garcelle goes, damn. Andy says in an unaired scene or unaired clip of the Peacock stuff, says, why does this season feel like it was an attempt Andy says, a viewer asked, why does this season feel like it was an attempt to keep Dorit's job? Kyle, do you think Dorit was coming in hot to stay on the show? And Kyle says, it did feel like that. A Dorit I didn't know, arguing. And I realized you were going through things, and it did feel like that. And Dorit's like, you've had relationships with executives from this show, and you would know if my job was on the line. How could you get to that conclusion? And Kyle just says, that's what I said. I stand by that. So I don't know what that necessarily means, but also Dorit's inferring that, like, you would know if Kyle is in deep on this show. She is, I believe, a producer on this show and has been there since season 1. So Dorit's point of, you would know if my job was in jeopardy because you get to make decisions like this. Andy says, we got a lot of comments about your decision not to tell the children about the separation. After Jagaloo saw or heard about your Instagram post, were you regretting your decision not to sit down with them? And Dorit's like, no, I have not regretted my decision, not for 1 second. And Sutton rolls her eyes like, oh, I see, I can't believe it. Andy goes, well, what do they know now? And Dorit's like, they're a bunch of idiots. They don't know anything. No. Dorit says they are not asking the question. So I think that when they see PK and I friendly and there's peace and we're happy, they're okay. But Dorit goes on to say throughout the show that her and PK do not see each other. They do not spend time together. So this to me just seems like a combustible situation at some point. Like I said, it's not our problem. I don't need to know about the kids. To me, that is a hands-off situation. I'm fine with seeing little Jagaloo and little Phoenix doing their like dancing around like little karate chops and all that stuff. I'm fine with that stuff. That's dark. But I do think I don't have kids, so I really don't have a lot of place to like kind of put my opinion out there, but I will, is that I would imagine that this would get tricky at some point. And we talked about a story the other day where Rain Disick Scott Disick and Kourtney Kardashian's kid was online for some reason on an Instagram live talking about Justin Bieber not being his father. And I was like, dude, a 10-year-old should not be on an Instagram live with Alabama Barker's boyfriend. So they're going to be put into situations that they're not going to even, I don't know. I just think you would want to get ahead of it in some way. And it's just like Kyle with being a lesbian. Like, I don't think being a lesbian is bad. I don't think it's wrong. I don't think any of that stuff. Just like I don't think being divorced is wrong. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think that is something that, I mean, it's a sad thing, but it's something that you should make people aware of in your life at a young age so they can also say, they can also recognize not being in a relationship if it is not right for you, if that makes sense. Andy says, last year on the after show, Sutton explained that while her kids knew she and Christian were separated, that you still elected not to tell the kids that he hadn't filed for divorce for an entire year. Is that hypocritical then, Sutton? And Sutton's like, well, right. I think I was learning from my mistakes. And Andy's like, you view that as a mistake. And she's like, oh, yeah. And Dorit says, why? What were the consequences? And Sutton's like, well, not so much consequences, I say. I think just being really honest with your children. That's how I am now. So they trust me implicitly. And he goes, is there a part of you that's not telling them, Dorit, because you're hopeful that you'll get back together? And Dorit's like, no, I promise you. More recently, I see less and less of a chance, which is sad. This relationship is donezo. And Andy goes, is that something that you would want? And Dorit's like, not as is. And then he goes, are you still in love with him? And Dorit pauses and goes, yes, he's my soul. He's my blood. Gross. He's my heart. That big, fat, bloated alcoholic. And I hate that because it makes it so much more difficult. But I also know I need peace. Dorit needs peace. Ooh, man. That breaks your heart, though. Like, I thought Dorit was at a place of acceptance and like, yeah, this is not... And PK says here in a second, this is not the Dorit I married. I would think that Dorit, if she had her words more on point, would have said, that is not the man that I married. Like, that seems obvious to me. And there seems to be a lot of financial weirdness with PJ. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's like, can't we just, it's like with like the Louis shit and all that stuff. Like, there seems to be some financial impropriety. However you want to take that. It's just the vibe we get reading between the lines, which you have to do on a show like this. So Andy says, we asked PK if he wanted to appear today. And Dorit's like, I know. He declined. I know. He sent a statement. Did he? And Andy goes, he did. He said, and this is PK's statement. I was invited to be part of the reunion but declined because I don't believe engaging with Dorit in this forum would be constructive. Dorit has made several mischaracterizations about me, PK, but the one I must address is the claim that I'm a bad father. That statement is both heartbreaking and false. It is deeply hurtful to me and more importantly to our children who, despite Dorit's assertion, will inevitably see and hear all of this at a time not of our choosing. Those closest to us know the truth. Many have wanted to speak out, but I have asked them not to because the truth should never need a champion. It would be great if he name dropped. Many have wanted to speak out, like Kyle Richards, but I told them no. I refused to stoke a fire I did not ignite. The Dorit I married would never have allowed this, much less caused it. That woman embodied, this is past tense, embodied kindness, integrity, and grace. I can only hope this version of Dorit finds her way back to the person she once was. PK. That was such a long statement. I was like, why didn't you just come? Like, Jesus, I'm not reading all that, even though I just read all that. But it is wild. Like, PK has a lot to say about this shit. I always like, I'm not going to participate, but I will make you read a 5-page letter. Dorit says, PK, he could have been here, and I was supportive of it. I had said I don't want to be in a position where only one side is being heard. And he says, he keeps saying you've changed. He refers very pointedly in that statement to the old version of you versus the new version of you. What is the difference? And Dorit's like, I got a nose job. No, she says, listen, if I haven't changed in 14 years, then something's wrong with me. I kind of agree with Dorit. And he says, part of your shtick, LOL, is the clothes and the glam and all that. And you love it, and it makes you happy. Was that a point of contention with him? And Dorit's like, yeah, I think at some point, yes. I think it's like banking. I don't want you spending money on all this shit. We don't have it, Dorit. Dorit says, again, but that's not the driving force. You know, he loves all of this. He loves when people come up and ask for a picture. And Andy says, did your fame change him? And Dorit's like, I don't know if change is the word. And Andy's like, is he insecure about it? And Dorit's like, yeah, I think he's very insecure. And Andy goes, about your fame? And Dorit's like, I don't know, maybe. I mean, it's hard. You know, when you have a room named after you at Buca de Beppo, that's rarefied air, right? But he says, maybe some things, you know, for me, sometimes to see things in a certain way, it's hard. Maybe if I took a step back and looked at it, you know, you never want to think that way about your husband. And Sutton makes a face. And he's like, Kyle, do you think fame has changed Dorit? This is so stupid because fame has changed all of them, including Kyle. But Kyle's like, I think this season that I saw a Dorit that I didn't know. I mean, you would perhaps even agree with that yourself. And Andy's like, what's different? I think everything seemed different. I mean, she seemed, of course, was angry. She seemed a lot more aggressive than usual. I think we just saw a very different, I don't think it was a different side to her because I felt like I know her so well. I felt like maybe circumstantial. Whatever it was a different Dorit. I need more information about this because I think she was upset because she felt abandoned by you, Kyle. Kyle was like, seemed to be closer with PK than, I mean, like, there seemed to be a lot of anger because of that. And I don't know, like, but the other suspicious part of me worries, is there something about Dorit specifically that we don't know about that they do? Like, is there something? Is there an issue? You know, like, and just let your imagination do the wandering. Because it seems like Kyle will not get off this, even though I'm like, well, dude, of course you'd change. Like, your husband is like not wanting to get back together with you. Your supposed one of your best friends doesn't really want to hang or talk with you or reach out to you. I mean, wouldn't that change a person? But so I'm thinking, is there something else that we don't know? Anyways, Andy says, Dorit, you confided in Kyle about PK's temper. You even went as far as calling him the monster. Kyle, we got a lot of tweets about your response to this admission. Snoopaloop777 on Twitter. I love when they do this, the Twitter names. It's like, Bunghole69 on Twitter said. Anyways, they said, Kyle thinks she's never seen that side of PK, so maybe Dorit is just exaggerating to manipulate her side of the story. Feels similar to people undermining domestic abuse victims. And Dorit says, definitely one of the things that hurt me the most, Kyle, watching that. You're supposed to know me way better than you know him, because you only have a relationship where you have memes and jokes, and you certainly don't know him as well, so you not having seen that wouldn't it have been usual? Kyle's like, I think it was coming from the place that he wasn't there to defend himself. And, you know, you can hear something like this, like he's an alcoholic, he's a bad dad. Then I hear monster. I didn't claim he was an alcoholic, Kyle. He was very open about it. You had said it on camera a number of times. Yes, Dorit says, and he had said it before that. And Kyle's like, but not on camera. And Dorit's like, he had said it publicly. Kyle goes, but my point, no. I love that. Kyle says people get angry and then Kyle just gets frustrated so quick. But my point, no, he said he stopped drinking, right? He didn't use the word alcoholic. That was the first time I had heard it when you said it. And this was a Peacock edition right here. Dorit says, he gave me permission to talk about his sobriety. And he says, you don't feel like you were weaponizing it? And Dorit's like, absolutely not. And Kyle says, I learned a lot about this because of my sister Kim in season 1 of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And we have a flashback to that iconic limo ride at the end of the season in 2009 when she was like, you're an alcoholic. And Kyle's like, when I said that it was like years of going through stuff, that came out of my mouth in anger. And it's not a great thing to say. And we do say things when we're angry in the moment. And this is interesting because I understand Kyle's point completely, but you also have to let people do that and experience that for yourselves. Just because you had that scene in season 1, people don't, you know, it's one of those things is that you know that now, allegedly, but Dorit has to go through that herself. Anyway, Sutton hops in. Well, to me, it looked like you were throwing your husband under the bus, Dorit. It was right out of the gate, and you kept repeating it over and over and over. And Dorit's like, well, it looked that way, but it was a week, and I was talking to different people. But when you had said that in your confessional, we were talking about my issues and our marriage and the separation, you diminished it like, oh, maybe she's just taking this opportunity to paint him in a bad light. And Kyle's like, well, I was in that moment because I felt like you were exaggerating a lot of things about me. And Dorit's like, really? And Kyle's like, see, when I saw those comments about PK, maybe she's exaggerating that. And Dorit's like, what did I exaggerate about you? We'll get to that, Kyle says. And Dorit's like, well, just because, you know, it's at the top of your mind, Kyle, I don't want you to forget. I'm just curious what I exaggerated. It's getting a little heated. And Kyle's like, when you acted so upset at Sutton's, you didn't even know I had sent PK a text yet. And Dorit's like, I wasn't even talking about the text. By the way, I also sent you a text that you never acknowledged. And Dorit's like, Kyle, you sent a text to PK first, okay? You only sent me a text because Erika told you should send it. And Kyle to Andy goes, can you show the scene? Can you roll the tape? Come on. Are we we do that multiple times in this first episode, and I love it. It's thrilling, but I've not seen that a lot of times. So I'm like, were they told to have these moments of roll the tape? Because I'm like, why haven't we seen these moments in all of the other 13 seasons of the roll the tape? Come on! And we show a never before seen scene from this season, and Eric is on FaceTime with Kyle going,
I just talked with Dorit on FaceTime, and I asked her had anybody reached out, and she said no.
And Kyle goes, okay, then I'm sending it now. I wrote it last night. I don't like that. I don't like that no one has reached out to her. If you don't like that no one has reached out to her, why didn't you reach out to her? You can fix that real quickly. Also, do we write a lot of texts the night before and then send them the next day? How are the kids doing text these days? Kyle, getting worked up, goes, you and I weren't even speaking, Dorit, but I still sent the text because I actually cared about you and felt badly you guys were separated, but you chose to see the worst in this situation instead of saying, Kyle, I love that Kyle's like, yes, I like PK more than you. Dorit goes, Kyle, you're missing the whole text message thing. Is this about you justifying the text message thing? Kyle to Sutton goes, did you reach out to Dorit? And Sutton's like, no. Kyle to Garcelle, did you? And Garcelle goes, no, I know why I didn't. And Kyle's like, okay, nobody else did. And instead of saying none of these women did, but Kyle did. No, the whole season, it was never mentioned. They had never reached out to her. It was all like, Kyle, why didn't Kyle, first off, because she considers you a friend in a different way. This is so remedial. She can, why am I explaining? Like, this is so dumb. Also, Kyle, you're the lead of the show. Heavy is the crown. Yes, they want your attention for some reason. Dorit says, we were talking about the fact that you sent him a text before me. Andy goes, all right, let's move on. How long has PJ been sober now? And Dorit's like, it's not a topic we discuss. And there's a pause. As I've discovered very recently, so I couldn't answer that. Erika whispers to Bose,
wait, is he not sober?
And Bose is like, I guess not. Andy says he's drinking again, and you don't want to say that. And Dorit's like, I have no idea. His exact words are, it's something I'm choosing not to discuss with you. Which, by the way, there was a video floating around a couple weeks ago of PK looking like what, I think with his new girlfriend in New York, and it appears it looked like he was drinking. Who knows? I don't know. But that video is out there. Andy says, do you have concerns? And Dorit's like, huge. And Andy goes, huge. Big. And in fact, in that moment, I said, the way you're making me feel in this moment, I don't think I could have a relationship with you, even a friendship. This is what I'm talking about with the kids. So how you're saying like the kids don't need to know, you're literally like, I can't ever see you again. That the kids are going to wonder. But Dorit says, that was less than a week ago, and I stand by it, Andy. You can tell that Kyle doesn't agree with something here, and this is like, come out with it. Anyways, Erika in the middle of all this goes,
is that my living room table?
And they show us side by side of the coffee table on set to Erika. And it does look like Erika's coffee table. But I want to point out is that when these like really deep topics are being discussed, this is so Erika coded, is that Erika is not thinking, Erika's literally thinking about possessions, as always.
All right, I like that wait, is that my coffee table? Damn.
But she even says,
well, that's how my mind works.
Andy says, Sutton, you've had a lot of opinions about PK and Dorit's finances. If they divorce, what do you think the forensic accountants will find? And Sutton's like, I don't know, those forensic accountants will get you. And she's like, are you worried for her? Yeah. And Dorit goes, you actually have to care about someone, have compassion like someone to be worried about them. And Sutton's like, I just worry for all women. By the way, any women out there listening today, I hope you are comforted like a warm blanket knowing that Sutton Stracke cares about you as a woman. So even at your most down moment today, just even if you're in the bathroom, tough stuff's happening, just go, I don't know why I put that in the bathroom, but just be like, Sutton cares about me. She does, right? Sutton goes, it's true. Whose name is on the mortgage, Dorit? Do you know that? And Dorit's like, do you think I'm really going to sit here and answer any questions that you're asking me? I'm not talking about you supporting women, Sutton. I'm talking about you having compassion for women. It's not about whose name is on the mortgage, which, by the way, I get what Dorit's saying, but also at the same time, it is. It's going to be about that at some point, and it's not going to look pretty from my understanding, right? So it continues, and Dorit is like, you said you're worried, Sutton. If you're worried for me, you have to actually like someone. You actually have to care someone. And Sutton's like, Well, you know what surprised me? I say, when I got divorced, I had 2 baseball teams. Now that surprised me. Remember, in seasons past, Dorit has been like, I own 2 minor league baseball teams and a ballet company. I say. I don't think Dorit owns any baseball teams. I don't know. What if she owns like the Dodgers and she just doesn't know until the forensic accounting? But Sutton's like, it was a nice surprise, Andy, but I had a lot of things that surprised me, and I think that communication in a marriage is so important. Then Andy asks Dorit, is the house in foreclosure? And she's like, no. And he's like, well, why have there been reports that it is? Well, these are reports that it is in pre-foreclosure. I don't own a house, so like the pre foreclosure, is there like a mid foreclosure and a post foreclosure? But she says she had no idea about it. He told me they changed the rate. He was trying to get a hold of somebody in regards to BK. No one's returning his calls, and that's the way he does business until they give him a call back. He's not going to pay. I tried to call and they didn't answer. I'm not going to leave a message because I tried. They should answer their phone. And I know I've known a couple rich people. And I will say, even just from watching reality shows, it seems like a lot of business is done just by not paying the people that do work for you. Do you ever know? In the government as well. It's wild. But Bose is like, that's how you lose a house. And Dorit goes, he resolved it. Listen, they ended up calling. That's what he said. Listen. This is what Sutton's talking about. You know, Sutton's not doing great this season, but this is what Sutton's talking about. Why would you believe him? Why would you believe him? And I'm not even saying PK in general, but no, when it comes to this shit, no, you got to have proof. But Dorit says, as of a week ago, I've chosen to not have much of a relationship with him. And Andy's like, well, you have to co-parent. And Dorit's like, exactly. Dorit, oops, I forgot. Oops. It says, how often is he seeing the kids? He sees them on Saturday night if he's in town. I co-parent 1/7 of the week. Erika says, are you scared? And she says, I'm not scared. I'm hurt. I'm sad. I think I'm realizing more and more each day that what I really believed was going to be my future may not be. And I think that realization is really fucking hard. And my heart is broken in a million pieces. And that's the thing where I'm not getting the Kyle reaction from this season, because that's what I got from Dorit of like, it's just this unimaginable hurt, I would imagine, and putting all of your trust and faith into this one person. And him, what it appears to be, or the show makes it out to be, is that he just like, I'm done, peace. Sutton whispers to Garcelle, when things look bad, I'm just going to look over there to give me some happiness and joy. Talking about her gloves, and then or looking at Garcelle, and Sutton puts her hand on Garcelle's, and Sutton's like, I feel like I'm touching Michael Jackson's glove. Beat it. Woo! Andy says, this year we met a new housewife, Bose, a high-powered executive who moved quickly up the corporate ladder and even faster in her relationship with Keeley. But some people here thought she could add one more credit to her uber-impressive resume. Dorit's spokesperson. Let's take a look. We go through all of the scenes with Bose this season. She was an executive, remember, at Netflix, Uber, Apple, Kathy at the beginning of the season going, thrilled to meet you, boss. And Dorit's like, Bose. And Kyle's like, Bose. And Bose goes, yeah, she's saying the boss. I'll take it. We met Keeley, her man. It's been, they've only been in a relationship for like 7 months, but they're moving at the speed of light, getting sonograms. But, they haven't said I love you to each other yet. Garcelle in a talking head says, it seems to be when Dorit and Bose are together, it's just them, and then there's us. Which, listen, this is where you can knock Garcelle a little bit. Now, remember, they are forced to say things on camera and they're asked questions specifically. What do you think about Dorit and Bose being close? That's how this shit is done. So you're going to have an answer to that. And also, yes, the obvious is, well, look at Garcelle and Sutton. Kyle's also upset that Bose is Team Dorit without knowing any of the backstory. Andy goes, all right. Bose, you strike me as the type of person who does her homework, doesn't come in unprepared. Did you watch the show beforehand, or did you come in sight unseen? And she said, yes, I watched the show beforehand. Which, by the way, I also want to know, what season did you watch? He says, what's the difference between watching it and being on it? And Bose says, that's was a big difference. I mean, watching it, you don't know the intricacies, and I can be totally honest that I thought that some of the relationships maybe played up for the TV, emotion or anger or feelings, whatever, were perhaps exaggerated, but they're very real. The amount of time that we spent together is really intense, and so you are automatically going to feel strongly about somebody's life just because we're talking about it all the time. I thought this was so well said and such an inner look at the behind the scenes of it all. is that's it, is that it is intense because you are talking about these people nonstop. And so you are perhaps bonded or feel things quicker than you would in normal relationships. But I thought that was interesting for her to say it's very real. I thought maybe it was played up when I watched it. Andy says, I'm so sad to hear that you lost your house in the Malibu fires. And they showed the pictures of this beautiful beachfront home. And Bo says, I don't know what to say. It's still hard to articulate. I think after all the news headlines go away and the sensationalism, you're just left with ashes of a house and trying to figure out how to get the debris off of the land, then fighting insurance companies and trying to figure out whether or not you're going to rebuild. This is such another important scene right here. And I hope that I know it's not glamorous, but I hope, man, I would love next season to Bo's have a storyline of just fighting insurance companies. I mean, just horrific. And she says, this was 25 years of hard work. And remember, she has built she never got anything from anyone. She is self-made. And she says, no one has ever given me anything. So losing the house in this fashion is beyond devastating. But her and Keely are really good. But she says, it's funny, I've been shocked about the response to our relationship. It's been a mixed bag. Some people think there's a bunch of red flags. Some people think it's great. Some question that at the time we hadn't said we loved each other. And they have said they love each other now, which we found out in the postscript at the finale. But Andy says, is that a red flag that he didn't say I love you to any of the other ladies? And Erika's like,
yeah, you saw me sitting across saying, wait a second, we're talking kids, but the words I love you.
Give me a break, Erika. You married Tom Girardi. She's like,
we can't procreate, but we can procreate, but we can't profess our love.
Cause I didn't think it was a red flag, but I was taken aback. And he says, Sutton, you told Bose in Malibu you found it suspicious that Keely had never been married or had children before, and we see a never before seen at Bose's Malibu home, saying, yeah, they've been dating for 7 months. And Sutton's like, ooh, well, he's never had children or been married? You're going to want to red flag that. And he says, do you stand by that, Sutton? And Sutton's like, well, you know me and dating. It never goes well. I'm wearing a kitten sweater. It just makes me so nervous when men haven't been married and they're approaching 50. So it's like, do you have commitment issues? I say that was all I meant by that. Just nothing. Don't even pay no attention to little Sutton. And he says, I've never been married. And Sutton's like, well, look at you. Look at you. Andy makes a sad face. Bose goes, oh, damn. Garcelle's not saying damn. Bose is saying, oh, damn. Sutton goes, no, but do you want to be married? Andy says, I have commitment issues. There's been a lot of I like Andy knows himself. But Andy's such an interesting guy. There's been a lot of talk about your fertility journey, Bose. Olivia from St. Louis says, I'm confused. Bose and Keely haven't even said I love you, but she's willing to risk her life to get pregnant again. What is the latest update? Are you retrieving eggs? She is in the process of that. And Bo says, here's the other thing about this, which is it has been a little frustrating to me to hear other people's opinions about my hopes, dreams, and desires. We said this earlier. Yes, of course. But that, unfortunately, is the show, right? That's the thing that sucks. She says, how dare you poo-poo my dream? Because the transparent thing about it all is I have been terrified to say I want another kid for 16 years because of what I went through. So considering this has been a big deal for me and something I feel very vulnerable about, and that's between me and God and Keely, and we got to figure it out. It's between you, God, Keely, and us, the Bravo fandom. And he says, turning to what others found to be an unlikely friendship, you could say bosom buddies, like bosom but bows. What drew you two together? And Bo says, I think just time and space and opportunity. I do have to say, though, I really appreciated when I met with Garcelle before we started filming, and I asked her, I was trying to get the tea on everybody, and she said she wouldn't share because she said that she wanted my relationships to be my relationships, which I respected because I was like, girl, tell me all the things, and she wouldn't share it. So I respected that. That is awesome. And it's none of the other girls, I think, would have potentially done that, but Garcelle did. And I thought that was a nice little detail. That just, I love that detail. Did you guys like that? But she says, I think I was inspired by Garcelle's directive to be open to everyone when I went to Sutton's party. And I think basically what happened is that Dorit was open as well. And he says, Kyle said Dorit is so all over Bose's ass, it's actually gross. Garcelle said Dorit was an embryo up Bose's coochie. That's Shakespeare right there. Dorit, how did you feel when you heard those comments? And Dorit's like, it was a little pathetic. And he says, Bose said on the after show that Sutton and Garcelle were jealous. Bose on the after show we flashed to, and it says, perhaps there's some jealousy that I would find any interest in Dorit, given that perhaps I'm not finding as much interest in them. Hey-o. Garcelle responds to this and says, absolutely not. The only time I really had a problem was when we were in Oceanside and you guys were talking and we were left out of it for like an hour. And they flash to 9 months earlier where Garcelle's saying, are we not included in this conversation? And Kyle going, I don't know what's going on over there. Because Boz and Dorit were just in a full hour-long conversation. And Garcelle goes, can I tell you, if you run the tape for the past 5 years, everybody had an issue with us, her and Sutton, being friends. So it's not like crazy. But that phrase again, run the tape. I was wondering if they were told they can say run the tape. We have a flashback to Garcelle's birthday party from a couple of years ago, and Diana Jenkins makes a return. You're fake, fake. I'm Diana Jenkins. Garcelle goes, Diana, that's kind of shitty. And Diana's like, are you her bodyguard? And then Erika to Garcelle going,
I'm glad you have Sheree because I think Sutton's a liability for you.
So that was like people being concerned about their relationship in past seasons. Andy says, if people had an issue with you two being friends, then wouldn't you say, you know what, I'm not going to engage in that? And Garcelle goes, yeah, but I didn't go on and on and on about it. Like, oh my God, how are they friends? Oh my God, how are they getting along? What do they have in common? Bo says, but there were many times that you said that. And Dorit's like, constantly. Garcelle goes, I didn't do all that. That was done to us. Garcelle and Sutton's dresses stick together at this point and everybody laughs. And Garcelle goes, but anyway, it's no. But to be completely honest, if I said stuff, I'm glad you have a friend in Boz. I don't have a problem with that. And Andy's like, you're happy that Dorit has a friend? And Garcelle goes, yeah. And Bo says, this is the thing that rubbed me the wrong way about the entire conversation, which was there was absolutely a belief that I was being manipulated. That annoyed me to no end. But I find that to be absolutely ridiculous because how am I being manipulated? And also, that's insulting to me. And Kyle's like, I didn't think she was being manipulated. Teacher's pet. Boz to Garcelle goes, that's insulting to me if you think for 1 second there was something she could say to me which would influence my opinion of you. Then that means you don't think very much of yourself. That's what I interpreted. Damn, Boz. Woo! Trying to clear Garcelle there. Andy, and this was a scene that wasn't in the Bravo version, but in the Peacock version. Andy says, Boz, at Kathy's house, you said Kyle had not been welcoming and a bit cold. And Kyle hit back in the press saying she visited your room in Oceanside. So what's the real story? Bo says, girl, you didn't come into my room in Oceanside. And Kyle's like, okay, you don't want to do this. You must be forgetting. I like you. I feel like I'm a good judge of character. And instantly, I took a liking to you. Now, I went to Sally Ann. Sorry to bring you into this, Sally Ann. Sally Ann's a producer on the show. And I said, can you take me to Boz's room? And I went and I said, I think you're amazing and funny and smart. And by the way, I can take a while to warm up to people. And Boz is like, I don't remember that at all. Kyle goes, I also came over to your house when you were recovering. And Boz is pretty much like, yeah, I guess the conversation wasn't memorable. It sounds darker when I say it than it was. Like they were kind of laughing about it. But it does appear that Kyle did those two things and Boz just didn't remember them, you know? And he's like, well, and I'm going to leave it there and we're going to take a break. Welcome back to the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills reunion. And this is Garcelle's segment. And it's, you know, starts positive, like about all the calling the shots on movie sets. Garcelle on a talking head says, if you told me when I was a little girl that I would grow up to have a life that I have, there's no way I would believe you. And it does kind of make you, I mean, those are those moments where you realize, like, beyond the show, you're like, oh, it is amazing, like Boz or Garcelle or who's another person we can point to on the show that have actually built their lives to such a degree that they didn't come from everything and they've built up, you know, like sort of like their personal empires. That is, and that's what I'm looking to do. That's what a lot of us are looking to do. And I think those moments you kind of forget of like, damn, yeah. There's a clip package where Garcelle's talking to Kyle on a boat saying, I'm having a hard time figuring out what's next for me as a woman. And Kyle's like, I so get that. Stay away from Morgan. No, Garcelle goes, I would love to go deeper with you in terms of our friendship, Kyle. I appreciate that so much. Garcelle in a talking head going, Sutton has been wanting for Kyle and I to be close for so long, but yet how am I supposed to be friends with Kyle if she's not going to open up about everything? We have the flashback of Garcelle going, we tiptoe around Morgan. We don't know what that situation is. There's no situation. One day, maybe I'll have a great story to share with you. Well, I hope you do, Sutton says. And then Garcelle to Sutton in St. Lucia, remember saying you're just super protective about Kyle and she's not been the most amazing friend to you. And Sutton saying, I'm not protecting Kyle. There is no loyalty. Garcelle and a talking head saying Sutton will always give Kyle a pass. The almighty Kyle, I can't. Andy says, okay, a lot to unpack there. Garcelle, let's do it. On Entertainment Tonight, Erika said she wanted to see Sutton and Garcelle open up more about their real lives. And Erika's like,
we want the juicy scoop.
And Garcelle goes, with what? I wish there was.
I understand. That's what we're getting at. We're not saying she's not telling us what's happening.
And Garcelle goes, I don't know what else I could show.
We want to know who you're dating, girl. We want to know who you're fucking.
Garcelle goes, I work my ass off. I'm with my children as much as I can. Andy says, she said she wants to know who you're dating. And Garcelle goes, there's one guy I went on like 2 dates with. And Andy goes, well, what more do you want to see? And Garcelle goes, like, there's nothing that I'm not showing, honestly. Do you know something? And Erika's like,
no, I wish you were more interested, I guess.
Let's throw the middle fingers up in the air, folks. Bose goes, ooh, damn. And Sutton's like, what? Andy has a zoinks face. And Garcelle goes, that's a shitty thing to say, Erika. And Erika's like,
I don't know.
And then Garcelle again says, that's a shitty thing to say. And Erika's like,
well, I think it kind of led me there.
Erika, well, let's watch your storyline. It's like watching wallpaper dry, literally. My God, what an idiot. Garcelle goes, Erika, when I thought we were in a better place, no, we're not, if you say something like that. And Erika's like, I think to my experience, Kyle and Dorit's going through like these really ugly public divorces and coming apart. By the way, that's not Garcelle's fault that she's not going through a very messy public divorce. Garcelle goes, my divorce happened before I came on the show and I was very open about it. So this is where it feels like a little bit of a coordinated attack. But also, I do also want to, I feel like Erika keeps wanting credit for a storyline that she wanted no part of. You know, it's like, yeah, man, we were all talking about it, including the LA Times. Like, it was a big national news headline, Tom Girardi. It wasn't like you were like,
here, I'm offering this storyline up to Bravo.
You sat there with mascara down your face, just trying to not speak. You would go to dinner parties being asked direct questions, not speak. And when you did, you would like throw nasty comments about Tom's actual victims. I'm sorry. Like, there's something to be said for Kyle opening up somewhat about her divorce, or Dorit in like scenes this season opening up about PK. But I do want to point out, we didn't see the lead up to PK and Dorit at all. That was really a surprise, even though I don't think we read between the lines, but we didn't see that lead up. And just like with Mauricio and Kyle, all of a sudden it was like poof, even though we had heard rumors for many, many years. Rumors. But Erika, yours was forced. Like, it literally got broke by the LA Times. Like, we had to talk about it. There was no way the show couldn't, but you did everything in your power to not talk about it. So I feel like this line, like Erika wants this pat on the back for this shit. But Kyle says, my issue is that you have said Kyle's not showing us her life. I've been showing so much of my life for so long. I have shown 14 years of my relationships with my families, falling outs with my family, problems in my marriage. Going through this separation is the hardest thing I've ever gone through. And then you've said many times, well, why isn't Kyle showing us what's really going on? You just said, what more do you want me to tell you? What more can I show you with my life? And Erika's like,
yeah, that's how we feel. I mean, it's been so open and so destroyed.
That's how we feel. Because, like, literally turning the cameras out and not thinking about the cameras and being there and saying exactly what I'm feeling. And Garcelle's like, well, last year, Morgan was part of the show. We met her. And we have our infamous scene with Morgan love this scene so much at the tattoo parlor. And the tattoo guy's like, how did you guys met? And Morgan's like, she stalked me. Kyle stalked me. And Kyle's like, I did. I stalked her. When everything was good, when Morgan still wanted to be on the show. Ugh. But okay, so two things can be true at the same time, right? Kyle just listed off all of these things she shared. And in 14 seasons, that is true. And I do think there is an exhaustion level felt by Kyle, and maybe some of the audience as well, where she's like, I don't want to keep doing this. It seems like it fucks things up. Like, there's a lot of truth in all of this. But unfortunately, the thing that people are paying attention to, and what Garcelle is pointing out, is that there are all these storylines in like Daily Mail, TMZ, all of the great publications, where it's like, yo, there's obviously something else, a part of your life that you're not able to share anymore. And she's actively told these cast members to not talk about it. And she's, by the way, I want to know how truthful this is too. Is it really Morgan, or is it Kyle going, I am not ready? Which also is a very valid way to feel. But like I said, maybe she shouldn't be on the show then. I'm just wondering what the percentage, like how much is Morgan uncomfortable with it and how much is Kyle? Because I do think Kyle is uncomfortable with it. This is a huge step for Kyle. Anyways, Garcelle goes, all of a sudden this year, it was like you weren't going to bring her up, but then there's pictures in the press that, and we're not allowed, we're just supposed to pretend that's not happening. And I was like, Morgan didn't sign up for this show. She does not want to be a part of it. She's not part of the cast. Oh my God, it would be such a slap in the face if Morgan Wade joined Summer House. Kyle kickstocked me. Garcelle goes, she didn't sign up for this show this season, but she was on before. And Kyle's like, she came on as a favor to me. What ensued about that created a lot of anxiety for her, and she didn't ask for this life. So I'm trying to be respectful of somebody who didn't sign up for it. Your son, who was that, the content creator I love, Face Reality 16, when this, I don't know how long ago this was, time means nothing, but remember, she had a whole thing about Morgan and Kyle, and she was even showing like Morgan wearing Kyle's Rolexes on stage and stuff. Like there is a part of the lifestyle that Morgan did sign up for, but whatever. But she's like, I'm trying to be respectable for somebody who didn't sign up for it. Your son, Garcelle, didn't want to be part of this show this season. I respect that. I was actually very hurt by you this season. I think it's very different to compare Garcelle's son and that storyline, especially after the Erika scene. But like I said earlier, I don't really care much about the kids, but I am interested in their love lives. Garcelle goes, I was hurt by you as well, Kyle. You were hurt by me this season? And Garcelle's like, yeah, and you even apologized to me. Which part? When you called me an asshole in the after show. And Kyle's like, I'm not talking about the after show. I called you that because of your behavior. I was very hurt by what I saw of you on the show. And Garcelle goes, I just felt like we would be hypocrites. Let me just say me, if all this stuff is happening out there and we don't address it, and we're going to look like we are not addressing it. I agree. And also, by the way, I want to also point out that these reality shows I truly believe that producers, I don't want to use the word egg on, but I will say, like, I feel like they've always suggested things like, Garcelle, could you, I know she doesn't want to talk about it, but could you suggest the Morgan stuff? Like, I feel like it's not a suicide mission, but I feel like Garcelle in particular, they've made do a lot of the heavy lifting because they want to bring the storyline out in the open. And even if they promise Kyle, like, no, we're totally cool, you not talking about the relationship. If I was a producer, I would still want to talk about the relationship. So I think they use people like intermediaries like Garcelle, and I think she was kind of left high and dry. I could be totally wrong about this, but it's just a vibe I get from watching so many seasons of these shows. Anyways, Kyle's like, I have also had a conversation with you privately. And Garcelle goes, and I haven't repeated anything you told me in that conversation. We shouldn't be having private conversations. Kyle's like, but I explained to you why. And Garcelle goes, why did you come to me off camera and talk to me? And Kyle's like, because I thought that you're my friend. Okay, but if you thought her friend, like that friendship should, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Why can't we be real? Anyways, Garcelle to Sutton goes, and what did you say when she walked away after she told us what she told us off camera? And Sutton's like, well, I think that Kyle wants to protect Morgan. And Garcelle goes, that's not what you said, Sutton. You said that was a chess move. Right here is the beginning of a friction, a little divot in their relationship, Sutton and Garcelle, because Garcelle just threw Sutton under the bus. But also Sutton, this just shows how far Kyle's ass she is, because Sutton, that's very Sutton to go, that was a chess move by Kyle Richards. Name them. Say what you want to say, Sutton. Like, my God, because there is an element where I do believe Sutton is true. I think that's a chess move on Kyle's part of like, I'm being the nice guy, but I'm going to get my way in the end, right? Kyle goes, the thing is, the both of you, the two of you together are mean girls. Just like Rinna and me and Dorit were and Erika. The mean girl conversation gets so old because it's another hypocritical conversation that you could point to every lady, maybe not Bose yet. You could kind of include Watch What Happens Live last week, but not yet. But they've all been mean girls at some point. And Dorit and Bose could potentially be mean girls next season. Kyle's like, mean girls, that's really shocking to hear that, Sutton. And Garcelle's like, how about the fact that when we were at Chuck E. Cheese, we laughed about it and I was being completely genuine. We flash back to 9 months earlier where Garcelle goes, Kyle, be whoever you want to be. If you want to be a lesbian, be a lesbian. By the way, this scene inspired me to be a lesbian. That and the Indigo Girls. Garcelle goes, and then you went on the after show and said, she's a fucking asshole. We flash back to the after show where Kyle goes, what was really going through my head was you're being an asshole right now. I love that the great name of Chuck E. Cheese is being tarnished in this scene. Kyle in the reunion says, you said that intentionally. And Garcelle goes, I didn't. No, be who you want to be. Stop worrying about what other people think. And Andy goes, is that what you think she's doing? And Garcelle's like, yeah, I think it's hard. And this comes to the root of it. And by the way, I agree with Garcelle. Like I think Kyle's always been somebody that's worried about what everybody else has thought. I'm that way as well. And I think this is something that she is still coming to terms with. But also it's not like I just, at the end of the day, I've been blessed where I don't have hangups like that. So I'm like, who cares? Be happy that you found somebody that you love, regardless, guy, girl, trans, whatever. Like, do you. But I think it's probably hard because of a family and having to share that with the world. Garcelle goes, we laughed about it that night. And Kyle's like, and I said to you, I don't think you're an asshole, but that was an asshole move. And Garcelle's like, okay, you can have your opinion. It's all good. Kyle's like, you repeatedly said you got mad at Sutton for not jumping on the bandwagon. And Garcelle goes, because she didn't have my back. That's between me and Sutton. And Kyle's like, but didn't have her back to come after me. And Garcelle goes, no, didn't have my back to support me. And Kyle goes, to support you in coming after me. Me, you, me, come after me. Yeah, to come after me, to make me uncomfortable, to put me on the spot, to create an issue with me that you knew that I have. So she admits right here that it's an issue. She admits right here. She goes, I told you right out of the gate, the whole season, right out of the gate. So she told everybody right out of the gate, this is an issue for her. But also this show, the reality of this reality is that, we sign up to watch these uncomfortable scenes and we sign up to have them go through uncomfortable scenes. Sutton's like, I respected that, Kyle. The whole season, I respected that. And I appreciate that, Sutton. And Garcelle's like, no, Sutton, no, come on. I respected her wishes. I really did. Kyle, do you want one of my baseball teams? Forgive me. And so Garcelle's like, no, you didn't, Sutton. No, you didn't. And Sutton's like, her wishes, I did. And Andy goes, her wishes were what? And Sutton's like, she didn't want to talk about Morgan. She didn't want to bring it up. So I didn't. This is like a Few Good Men scene. Like, you can't handle the truth. You goddamn right I did. Garcelle goes, if Morgan had not been on the show prior, then I think it would have been okay if she had said, you know what, that part of my life is off the table. And Kyle's like, that's not her place. She didn't sign that contract to be. Okay, so we need to get Morgan paid. This is a GoFundMe situation. Andy says, Garcelle, you were extra frustrated that Sutton didn't back you up. Do you think that Sutton is obsessed with getting Kyle's approval? Garcelle goes, I think Sutton's relationship with Kyle is really important to her. And Erika's like,
Garcelle, do you feel like she has to back you up all the time? Like it's a two thing, but you can have independent questions, right? Like she doesn't need to come in and support you.
So Erika trying to make a point here, but like, Garcelle's also making the point of friendship you sometimes do blindly support, the kind of support that Erika wishes she had from these ladies back through her Tom Girardi stuff. Garcelle goes, no, but I do that for her and I don't need to do it either. It's called friendship. And Kyle's like, but that's the thing. On the boat, Erika and Sutton were in an argument. You were silent. Jennifer Tilly was silent, but Jennifer Tilly didn't even know where she was. Garcelle goes, I was silent because I knew if I said one word, you'd be like, oh my God, she's coming. She's sticking up for Sutton. And Kyle's like, you were silent. Jennifer Tilly was silent. The entire boat was silent. And then you look at me and you say to me, she expected more loyalty from you, Kyle. And like, me, Kyle says, which is, by the way, another heavy is the crown, Kyle. Heavy is the crown. This is a joke. Everyone wants to fucking come for my ass. And Garcelle goes, because you're important to her. That's not my fucking problem. I mean, you're important to her too. So is Jennifer Tilly. So in my mind, I'm like, my God, everyone's coming for my ass. Like, what did I do? What did I do to deserve this? It hurt me. It's 14 seasons, Kyle. You are the lead of this show, whether you want to accept that or not. Garcelle goes, I'm sorry about that. I don't know. Like, who do you trust? And Dorit's like, I know that feeling. It's not nice. I think that's why I gravitated to it so much towards Bose, because she was so real. I didn't feel I had to question it ever. And he goes, Dorit, how did it feel seeing what Garcelle said about someone orchestrating the break-in? Okay, so this is our final little section here. And this is tough, right? Because this in a lot of ways could go past a lot of people's lines of what they deem acceptable for reality television. But it's still something that a lot of people question in terms of Dorit's break-in. And this is what I say. There's so much mystery around PK's finances. And even if it's not acceptable, I appreciate it that it was brought up. Andy asked the question. Garcelle didn't bring it up. Andy asked the question. So they wanted to focus on it. I mean, in a way, it's a good opportunity for Dorit to be able to, have scorn towards Garcelle and potentially try to come out as a hero by bashing Garcelle for having opinions about this. But in life, we do have opinions about these things. And I like that there is a little bit of a taboo and there's a little bit of like, ugh. Even I was like, I don't know. but I kind of appreciate the attempt, if that makes sense, right? But there is still so many kind of weird little inconsistencies about this story. But Dorit goes, I really don't understand the obsession, Garcelle, about one of the most traumatic things in my life, something that I suffered terribly for 2.5 years. This really was traumatic. We saw her go through therapy, and also remember PK was not supportive of that therapy. He was like, get over it already. Come on. But Garcelle goes, that was my feeling. This is the last time I'm going to talk about it. And Dorit's like, hallelujah, because you haven't stopped talking about it since it happened. Garcelle. Andy's like, you feel it was a setup. And Garcelle goes, yeah, I do. I feel how I feel. What am I supposed to do? I love when, yeah, if you feel that way, it's so much better than like lying. Dorit goes, it's based on nothing. And Garcelle goes, no, it's my instincts. And Dorit's like, there's no evidence. We have made sure of that. We destroyed it. No, or fact or any reason whatsoever for you to draw that conclusion. And Garcelle goes, then I'm wrong. And Dorit's like, yet you can say it so casually, not considering once how that might make me or my fat, bloated, alcoholic husband PK feel, or our family feel whatsoever about something as traumatic as that. Well, you don't tell your kids anything, so they don't have any feeling about this. Garcelle goes, I am sorry if it hurts you. This is how I feel. And Boz goes, wow. And Andy goes, I think it's that the guy gave you back the cell phone. LOL, Andy stoking that fire. Like, that's part of it is, remember, the guy like left her cell phone. She's like, I need my cell phone, and the guy left it. And usually people that are doing these big smash and grabs are not being that kind. Like, she was lucky to have one of the kindest smash and grabbers out there. And Garcelle's like, yeah, Andy. And she's like, I didn't put the alarm on at night because the kids run around. I think most people's alarm, you can put the alarm and be in the home. So that's another thing, how alarms, if they work for the whole, you can be in the house and still have portions of the alarm going with, you know what I'm saying? So that's another weird thing of just, it happened to be this way. But Dorit's like, you think that I or my husband would orchestrate? And Garcelle goes, I didn't say you or your husband. And Dorit's like, let's think this through. And Garcelle goes, do not put that in my mouth. I didn't say you or your husband. I just felt. And Dorit's like, you did. You intimated that it was PK. And Garcelle's like, no, I didn't. And Kyle's like, then who else could it be? It's not me. Dorit's like, you intimated in that scene that it was PK. And Garcelle's like, no, I didn't. Roll the tape. Because I did not. Here's another roll the tape, you guys. Dorit's like, you said to me, and Garcelle goes, I said, I don't think Dorit knew anything about it. We roll back tape from 9 months. Garcelle to Sutton going, when I said last year about her jewelry and her robbery, I don't think Dorit had anything to do with it, but I think someone did. Now, I will say, I do feel she means PK, but she didn't say it. Garcelle goes, I'm done talking about this. It's how I feel. And Dorit's like, that's fine, but I'm going to at least tell you how I feel. And Garcelle's like, I know how you feel about it. And Dorit's like, my husband, he must be a sociopath and not give a shit about his family whatsoever. And Erika's like, with kids. I love that line. He must be a sociopath and not give a shit about his family whatsoever. Okay, devil's advocate, though, you've also expressed that he doesn't spend a lot of time with his family, that he maybe has it Saturdays or maybe Saturday night. He left you high and dry. He's sending you very unsympathetic emails. I mean, is there a world in which, Dorit says that he would send men into our home at night with my children sleeping in the house and he would put me through that trauma. But you're also saying, Dorit, that you can't believe the actions that he's made in other situations this last year. So I don't know. I don't think so, but there is this lingering, I don't know. Garcelle goes, was I the only one that felt that way? And Dorit's like, who? Tell me who else? You're for the people from Twitter? That wasn't the serve that I think a lot of people think it is, but whatever. Boz is like, I think it's a very difficult thing to say without any proof at all. And so saying that has enormous repercussions. I think it's dangerous of you to say. I think it's actually really, really terrible. Once again, this is the show, though. And also, once again, this is Boz being Dorit's mouthpiece. But listen, Boz is able to communicate effectively. Garcelle goes, okay, I apologize. Andy's like, all right, well, I was going to ask where the two of you stand, but I think you took a few steps forward this season and may have taken a couple back. And Garcelle's like, yeah, that's usually how this works. And Andy's like, well, we'll see where this goes. And now they break for lunch. And Garcelle's like leaving set going, can I go home? Sutton's on the sofa to Avi, and who brought her slippers. And she's like, everybody hates me, Avi. Everybody hates me. And Kyle's like, what? And Sutton's like, everybody hates me. I'm going to start to cry. Sutton's barely been in this first part at all, so my God. And Kyle even points that out. Like, you haven't even started yet. Garcelle goes to her dressing room, And she was like, I thought Sutton was going to be in the hot seat. I didn't think I was going to be in the hot seat. Jesus Christ. I can't have an opinion. I can't say how I feel. I just have to go along just to go along. Everybody can go fuck themselves. I don't care. Yeah, and you really sense that. And I like that. That's like Dorit at the beginning of the season. I like when people are like, fuck it all, burn it all down. Sutton knocks on Garcelle's dressing room door, like, how you feeling? Do you need another vibrator? And Garcelle's like, not great. And Garcelle's like, well, Garcelle goes, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. I can't say how I feel. I can't say, I have to tiptoe around everybody. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And then this was a little thing that was not in the Bravo version. Sutton's like, well, maybe not the time to bring this up, but I felt a little blindsided, felt a little thrown under the bus. And Garcelle goes, I'm sorry. And Sutton's like, well, it's about to get real bad for good old Sutton. She knows that, like, her time is about to come. Now, Boz, to Dorit in another room, Boz is like, this Garcelle situation, oof, we're not talking about something casual. We're talking about a crime. You can't say those things without repercussions. Garcelle in her room, back to that, says, I'm the bad guy here. And Sutton's like, oh, no, I think we are. And Garcelle's like, yeah, we're mean girls, apparently. Well, I mean, which I don't understand that. And Garcelle goes, yeah, I'm not taking that on. You can say anything you want. I'm not taking it because I know who I am. She was like, be more interesting. Fuck you, Erika. Fuck you. Fuck you. What? Because I'm not going through a divorce? Because I don't, have criminal activity? That I work? That I'm self-made? I don't have a rich husband? I wasn't born with a silver spoon in my mouth? That's not interesting? And Sutton's like, well, she doesn't have a rich husband either. And Garcelle's like, fuck her. Fuck her. Hell yes. By the way, if I was a producer, I would have taken this little footage on the break at lunch and I would have played it for the ladies when they pick back up cameras for part 2. Okay, next week on part 2, we have Jennifer Tilly coming back out. Kathy's out doing her hijinks. Kyle says, I've never been accused of being a liar. And Bo says, well, there were lies told. Dorit to Sutton going, you don't exactly live like the Queen of Sheba. You live on a fucking main road. And then we have Andy in a scene going, you went back to your room and called PK? And Kyle's like, yeah. And Dorit's like, can't you wrap your head around how fucked up this is? A lot of language in this episode. Okay, folks. This was really fun. I hope you got something from it. Come back on Friday. We got a great interview about the movie industry. And then Saturday, we'll be doing our Southern Charm Summer House stuff. But I hope you have the best Thursday ever. And thanks for joining us today. Okay? Bye.